You ever notice how anxiety rarely kicks down the door? It doesn't crash in with panic attacks or drama. Most of the time, it slips in quietly. It hides in your chest, and that strange pressure you can't quite name. It's there when you're doing fine, when everyone says you should be happy, when life looks stable on paper. Yet something deep inside whispers, something's wrong. That's the moment most people start fighting it. You tell yourself to relax, to breathe, to be grateful. You distract your mind, scroll through your phone, pour another coffee, keep moving. You do everything to look normal. But inside, the tension keeps humming like a low electric current. That's the thing about anxiety, it's not always loud. Sometimes it's subtle, invisible, even polite. It doesn't always knock you out, it just follows you everywhere, like a shadow you can't shake. And the more you try to run from it, the more it sticks. We live in a world that tells us to fix everything fast. Feeling anxious? There's a pill, a podcast, a meditation app for that. But what if the message we've been sold is backward? What if anxiety isn't a malfunction of your brain but a message from your soul? What if that knot in your stomach isn't a sign you're broken, but a sign you've stopped listening? For years, people have been told that anxiety means something's wrong with them. You're too sensitive, too emotional, too weak. But sensitivity isn't a flaw, it's awareness. Anxiety often shows up not because you're fragile, but because you're perceptive. You notice when things don't align. You feel when something's off, even if everyone else is pretending everything's fine. That's not dysfunction. That's intuition. Think about it. Most of us were raised to chase a picture of life that's calm, organized, and perfectly under control. The good job, the stable income, the happy relationship. We believe that once everything lines up, we'll finally feel peace. But peace doesn't come from control, it comes from acceptance. And we've built a culture that runs on the exact opposite, constant control. We live by to-do lists, calendars, alarms, and checkboxes. We plan the next 10 years but can't stand being alone with our thoughts for 10 minutes. So anxiety becomes the background noise of modern life. Not because we're doing something wrong, but because we've forgotten what it means to simply be. Here's the paradox: the more you try to stop feeling anxious, the worse it gets. The tighter you grip, the harder it pulls. Because anxiety feeds on resistance. It's not here to punish you, it's here to tell you something is out of sync. It's the body saying, "Hey, I can't keep doing this." It's the heart saying, "You're ignoring me." It's the soul saying, "You've been running too long." But we don't listen. We fight, suppress, and medicate. We label it as weakness and do everything to silence it. Yet deep down, anxiety is trying to do the opposite. It's trying to wake you up. Imagine it like this: your phone keeps vibrating. You keep hitting dismiss. The notifications pile up. That's your anxiety, unread messages from your inner self. You can ignore them, but they don't disappear. Eventually, the system crashes. And that's when people say, it came out of nowhere. But it didn't. It's been there, whispering for years, waiting for you to pause and actually listen. The problem isn't that anxiety speaks, it's that you've been taught not to hear it. And then there's the guilt. The quiet shame that says, "Why can't I just be okay?" You see other people smiling on social media, coworkers laughing like they've got it all figured out, and you start thinking, maybe it's just me. But it's not just you. You're not the only one who lies awake replaying every conversation, every decision, every possible future disaster. You're not the only one who gets that strange wave of fear when everything's calm, like your body doesn't trust peace. You're not alone in this. The truth is, millions of people carry invisible tension under their smiles. They go to work, raise kids, meet deadlines, and still feel that unnamed pressure pressing on their chest. Anxiety doesn't always mean you're in danger. Sometimes it means you've outgrown the way you've been living. Sometimes it means you've been running from a truth that wants to catch up to you. It's your inner compass saying, "Turn around." But we confuse that guidance with threat. We call it disorder, when maybe it's direction. Think about how many times in your life anxiety showed up right before a change, right before you quit that job, left that relationship, made that big move. It wasn't trying to destroy you, it was trying to prepare you. Of course, not all anxiety feels meaningful. Sometimes it's just exhausting. The racing thoughts, the insomnia, the heart pounding for no reason. It can feel like you're trapped inside a body that's betraying you. But even then, there's intelligence in it. Your body isn't attacking you, it's protecting you with outdated instructions. It's trying to keep you safe from a danger that isn't there anymore. That's not your fault, it's your biology. You inherited a nervous system built for predators, not emails and bills. The problem isn't that your system is broken, it's that it's overloaded. So here's the question. What if you stopped treating anxiety like an enemy to fight and started treating it like a teacher to listen to? What if every time you felt that familiar rush, instead of saying something's wrong, you asked, "What's this trying to show me?" Because beneath the panic, beneath the tension, anxiety carries truth. The truth that you've been stretching yourself too thin. The truth that you've been living someone else's version of life. The truth that you can't keep pretending you're fine when you're not. Maybe anxiety isn't here to ruin you. Maybe it's here to bring you back, to presence, to honesty, to yourself. Maybe the real healing doesn't start when you silence the fear, but when you understand it. Because only then does it lose its grip. Only then can it stop being a monster in the dark and become a guide leading you home. So the next time you feel it rise, that familiar tightness in your chest, that wave of unease, pause. Don't rush to fix it. Don't label it. Just listen. Breathe. You're not broken. You're being called. Anxiety isn't a curse, it's a compass. It's your soul trying to remind you of something you forgot in the chaos. You're alive. And being alive will always mean feeling deeply. That's not weakness. That's the point. Here's the uncomfortable truth. The harder you try to control life, the more it controls you. We live in a culture that worships control, control over time, over money, over health, over emotions. From the moment we wake up, we're managing, optimizing, predicting, trying to keep everything in its place. But no matter how many planners you buy or routines you perfect, there's always that creeping sense that you're one mistake away from losing it all. That's the real paradox Alan Watts was talking about when he said the desire for security and the feeling of insecurity are the same thing. The more you chase safety, the more anxious you become. Because every act of control is built on the quiet assumption that life is unsafe, that you can't trust the flow of things. Think about how we've been programmed. From childhood, we're told to plan ahead, to be responsible, to get it together. Teachers, bosses, parents, they all reward control. Spontaneity gets labeled as risky, uncertainty as failure. So we grow up trying to outsmart the future, build walls around the unpredictable, and call that maturity. But the more we try to secure everything, the more fragile we become. One unexpected bill, one breakup, one diagnosis, and our whole sense of safety collapses. That's not stability, that's emotional hostage-taking. If you've ever gripped the steering wheel during a storm, you know this feeling. You hold tighter and tighter, but the tighter you hold, the more the car swerves. Control becomes panic disguised as responsibility. The same happens in life. We clutch our relationships, our jobs, our image, terrified they'll slip away. But in doing so, we suffocate them. We think control equals safety, when in truth it often equals suffocation. Watt said it perfectly, the more you try to grasp water, the more it slips through your fingers. That's not philosophy, it's physics. The same principle that governs water governs emotion, relationships, and peace of mind. Our obsession with control is rooted in fear. Fear of losing, fear of being wrong, fear of being vulnerable. And so, we overplan, overanalyze, and overthink. We become experts at rehearsing disasters that haven't happened. How many times have you caught yourself imagining every worst-case scenario before a meeting, a date, a phone call? That's not intuition, that's fear pretending to be preparation. And the cruel irony is that by trying to avoid pain, we actually create it. We trade the freedom of the present moment for the illusion of a controlled future. In America, this mindset is practically a religion. We equate control with success. We admire people who have it all figured out. We treat spontaneity like immaturity and rest like laziness. Every day is a sprint toward stability, a bigger savings account, a longer to-do list, a better body, a perfect plan. But all of it feeds the same silent monster, anxiety. Because control is never satisfied. You reach one goal, and instantly, the next one appears. You make one plan, and a dozen new variables threaten to derail it. You're constantly chasing a horizon that keeps moving. Here's the catch: life was never meant to be controlled. It was meant to be lived. But living requires trust, and trust feels like risk. That's why anxiety thrives in control freaks. It feeds off their resistance to uncertainty. The more they resist, the stronger it gets. Real peace doesn't come from eliminating chaos, it comes from learning to dance with it. Life is not a straight highway, it's a winding road with sudden turns and blind spots. You can't see everything ahead, and you're not supposed to. The goal isn't to predict the road, it's to stay awake while driving it. Have you ever noticed that kids rarely have anxiety about the future? They don't need to know what's next, they just play, fall, get up, and move on. They don't question the flow of life, they live it. But somewhere along the way, we trade that natural trust for anxiety disguised as adulthood. We stop living and start managing. We lose curiosity, spontaneity, and faith. And every time something unexpected happens, we panic, not because the event is catastrophic, but because we've forgotten how to bend. What's called this the wisdom of insecurity? The idea that freedom begins the moment you accept that security is impossible. That's not cynicism, it's liberation. Because once you stop fighting reality, you stop suffering twice, once from what's happening, and again from your resistance to it. Insecurity, when accepted, transforms into presence. Suddenly, you are no longer rehearsing your future, you're actually living your life. Imagine what would happen if, just for one day, you stopped trying to control everything. You let people think what they think. You let the day unfold without trying to dominate it. You breathe without planning your next move. That's not recklessness, that's sanity. Because control is an addiction that feeds anxiety, and surrender is the medicine that heals it. The paradox is that surrender doesn't mean giving up, it means showing up, fully, without conditions. The truth is, you'll never be completely ready. You'll never have enough data, enough savings, or enough guarantees to silence uncertainty. And that's okay. Because life isn't supposed to feel certain, it's supposed to feel alive. The moment you stop demanding that everything be stable is the moment you start to experience real stability, the kind that comes from within. So ask yourself, what would happen if you loosened your grip, just a little? If you trusted that not every wave is there to drown you, some are there to carry you? What if you believed that even the chaos has intelligence, that even the uncertainty has meaning? You might find that the peace you've been chasing wasn't at the end of control, but right here, in the space you've been trying to control out of existence. Maybe life isn't asking you to manage it, it's asking you to meet it. To stop building walls against what scares you and start breathing through it. Because the moment you do, the mind quiets, the body softens, and anxiety loses its power. That's when you realize that security was never the goal. The goal was aliveness. The goal was trust. And the irony is, the moment you stop trying to be safe, you finally feel free. Picture this. Thousands of years ago, a human stands on the savannah. The sun is setting, the grass moves, and somewhere in that golden light, a predator waits. His heart pounds, his breath quickens, adrenaline floods his body. Every cell screams, run. And he does. He survives. That, right there, is what your anxiety was designed for, to save your life. Now fast forward to today. You're sitting in traffic, your boss just sent an email with the subject, "We need to talk," and your phone won't stop buzzing. Your heart starts racing, your chest tightens, your breath becomes shallow. You're not being chased by a lion, but your brain doesn't know that. To it, danger is danger, whether it's claws or credit cards. That's the cruel comedy of evolution. We inherited a survival system built for the wilderness, and we're using it to navigate email notifications and social media. Robert Sapolsky, one of the most brilliant neuroscientists alive, calls this the biological trap of modern life. In his book Why Zebras Don't Get Ulcers, he explains something simple but profound. Animals in the wild experience stress only in bursts. A zebra runs from a lion, escapes, and within minutes its body returns to balance. Heart rate normal, digestion back online, peace restored. Meanwhile, we humans can activate that same emergency system over and over without ever leaving our desk. You worry about money, traffic, your relationship, your reputation, your weight, your future. You lie in bed replaying arguments that happened 5 years ago and imagining disasters that haven't even happened yet. Your body keeps sounding the alarm, but there's no off switch. You're living as if danger never ends. And when your body stays in survival mode too long, things start to break. Cortisol, the stress hormone, was meant to help you sprint away from predators. But when it stays elevated for months or years, it starts to poison the system. It weakens your immunity, messes with your hormones, fogs your memory, kills your sleep, and leaves you tired no matter how much you rest. That's why chronic anxiety feels like being haunted. You're not imagining it. Your biology is stuck in fight or flight. You're living in a constant state of emergency, even when your life isn't actually in danger. Let's be clear, this isn't your fault. You didn't fail some spiritual test or miss a secret breathing technique. You're carrying the weight of human evolution. The same wiring that once kept your ancestors alive now keeps you restless, overthinking, and exhausted. The brain's number one job is survival, not happiness. It doesn't care if you're at peace, it cares if you're safe. But here's the paradox, in the modern world, those aren't the same thing. We're safe, but we don't feel safe. And that disconnect is where anxiety grows. Think about how your day unfolds. Your phone rings, your brain flares up like it's a threat. A coworker sends a vague text, your pulse jumps. You check the news, and your nervous system reacts like there's a tiger in the room. And because this happens all day, every day, your body never gets the signal that the danger is over. That's why so many people live with tight shoulders, clenched jaws, and shallow breathing. We're not lazy or weak, we're overstimulated animals trapped in an unnatural environment. Sapolsky says our biggest mistake is that we use a brilliant system for imaginary problems. We think about the future, and our body reacts as if it's already happening. You picture losing your job, and your heart races. You imagine getting sick, and your stomach knots. You rehearse the pain before it arrives. That's the curse of human intelligence. We can suffer from our imagination. No other species does that. The zebra doesn't lie awake wondering if lions will attack tomorrow. It just grazes, breathes, and lives. We, on the other hand, are stressed by ghosts, memories that can't hurt us and futures that haven't even happened. And here's where the real damage occurs. Your stress system was built for short sprints, not marathons. But modern life is one long marathon of alarms. You wake up to your phone buzzing, rush through breakfast, fight traffic, battle deadlines, worry about bills, then scroll through bad news before bed. You never truly power down. And that's why people burn out, not because they're weak, but because their body was never meant to run in high alert 24/7. So how do you break the cycle? First, by understanding that anxiety is not purely mental, it's biological. You can't think your way out of it because it's not all in your head. It's in your bloodstream, your hormones, your muscles. When you're anxious, your body is trying to save you. It's sounding an ancient alarm that's simply been miscalibrated for modern life. The key isn't to fight the alarm, but to teach your system what safety actually feels like again. That's why techniques like slow breathing, movement, and grounding aren't woo-woo, they're science. When you exhale slowly, you're literally sending a message to your nervous system, the danger is gone. When you move your body, you release the trapped energy that fight or flight created. When you rest, truly rest, you remind your biology that survival doesn't require constant tension. Anxiety starts to soften not when you fight it, but when your body begins to believe it's finally safe. And that's the hardest part, isn't it? Because safety isn't a place, it's a feeling. You could have a great job, a stable home, a loving family, and still feel unsafe inside your own skin. That's because safety isn't built outside of you, it's restored within you. The challenge isn't to eliminate every stressor from your life, but to teach your nervous system to stop reacting to every notification as if it's a lion. So next time your heart starts racing for no reason, remember this: your body isn't betraying you, it's protecting you with outdated software. You're not broken. You're human. You're an ancient organism trying to survive in a modern jungle of deadlines and digital noise. The goal isn't to delete anxiety from your life, it's to understand it, to work with it, to help your system unlearn the lie that every unknown equals danger. Because when your biology finally learns to rest, your mind follows. And for the first time in a long time, you might realize that peace was never about escaping the world. It was about learning to live inside your own body again. We like to think of ourselves as the most advanced generation in history. We've got information in our pockets, endless choices at our fingertips, and technology that promises to make everything easier. But somehow, we've never been more anxious. We live in an age that celebrates progress while quietly feeding insecurity. We talk about freedom, but we're chained to our calendars. We praise connection, yet we feel more disconnected than ever. Alan Watts once called this the age of insecurity disguised as progress, and if you look around, it's hard to argue with him. We've built a civilization that's obsessed with control, speed, and image, and then we wonder why everyone's exhausted and lonely. From a distance, everything looks perfect. Scroll through social media and you'll see smiles, vacations, promotions, milestones. But beneath all that perfection is a generation living on caffeine, deadlines, and quiet despair. We've been taught to keep it together, to stay positive, to never show weakness. So we walk around like we're fine while silently falling apart. And because everyone else is doing the same, we think we're the only ones who feel like we're drowning. It's not just anxiety, it's collective denial. The culture itself is anxious, and we're just breathing it in every day. You see it in the way people talk about success. Hustle harder. Be productive. Optimize your time. There's a whole industry built on teaching us how to perform calm while living in chaos. The wellness world has become a $4 trillion market, selling relaxation like it's another achievement. There's nothing wrong with meditation or therapy or green juice, but let's be honest, they've become another checkbox on the list. We meditate not to find peace, but to perform it. We post our mindfulness routines, track our steps, count our sleep hours. We're trying to fix our stress with the same mindset that created it. It's not healing, it's management. And management never leads to freedom. Somewhere along the way, we confused progress with pressure. Every new app, gadget, and piece of advice is supposed to make life easier, yet it only adds another layer of should. You should eat better. You should be fit. You should be happy. You should meditate, journal, plan, save, and smile while you're doing it. But the more we try to check every box, the emptier we feel. Because behind all those shoulds is the same unspoken message: you're not enough yet. And that's the silent virus running through modern life, the feeling that we have to earn the right to relax, to rest, to just be. What's said that modern man lives like a ghost, half in the past, half in the future, and never here. We're haunted by what was and terrified of what might be. We analyze, compare, plan, predict, and prepare, but rarely inhabit the present. We call that being responsible. But the truth is, it's killing us. We spend our lives preparing for a someday that never comes. Someday when we'll have time, someday when we'll be happy, someday when everything makes sense. But the present moment, the only one that actually exists, slips by unnoticed. And that's the real tragedy of anxiety. It's not just a feeling, it's the constant theft of now. The irony is that our pursuit of stability is what destabilizes us. We build routines to protect us, but they become cages. We cling to identities that no longer fit, relationships that drain us, careers that hollow us out, all because the unknown feels too dangerous. And yet, the more we resist change, the more anxious we become. Because deep down, we know life is change. It's not supposed to be a straight line, it's a wild, unpredictable rhythm. Nature doesn't apologize for its chaos, it thrives on it. But we've built a culture that punishes uncertainty, that teaches us to fear it instead of flow with it. And so, anxiety becomes the body's rebellion against artificial order. It's life itself pushing back against our illusion of control. You can see it in how people interact now. Everyone's talking, but no one's really listening. Everyone's connected, but no one feels seen. We're overstimulated but undernourished. Constantly plugged in, yet profoundly disconnected from ourselves. We're always on, chasing validation, likes, approval, and performance metrics, at work, at home, even in our relationships. And the more external noise we absorb, the less we hear our own truth. That's why silence feels uncomfortable. That's why stillness feels dangerous. Because in silence, there's no distraction left to protect us from ourselves. And maybe that's what modern anxiety really is, not fear of failure, but fear of meeting ourselves without filters. When the noise stops, the truth starts speaking. It tells us we're tired. That we're out of alignment. That we've been living someone else's version of life. But we don't want to hear that. So we stay busy, stay productive, stay scrolling. We convince ourselves that more information, more work, more control will calm the storm inside. But it never does. Because what we're really searching for isn't stability, it's meaning. So how do we reclaim it? By remembering what we've forgotten. That peace isn't a reward at the end of achievement, it's a choice in the middle of chaos. That slowing down isn't failure, it's wisdom. That being human means embracing uncertainty, not erasing it. What said that true freedom begins when you stop fighting the flow of life? And that's not a metaphor, it's a practice. It's putting down your phone, taking a breath, looking around, and realizing that this moment, imperfect as it is the only real thing you have. So maybe progress isn't about running faster or doing more. Maybe it's about coming back. Back to your breath, back to your senses, back to the truth that everything you've been chasing has been inside you all along. The world will keep spinning, the noise will keep calling, the system will keep rewarding chaos, but you don't have to play that game. You can choose presence over performance, reality over illusion, being over doing. Because the more you try to perfect your life, the further you drift from living it. And the moment you realize that, the moment you stop needing life to be predictable, is the moment you actually start to feel alive. What if anxiety isn't your enemy at all? What if it's your body's way of whispering, you're out of alignment? We've been taught to see anxiety as a malfunction, a sign that something's wrong with us, that we're weak or broken. But what if that's not true? What if anxiety is a language, a coded message from your deeper self saying, hey, something here doesn't match who you really are? Because that's what it often is, not a disease, but a disconnection. A signal that you've been living too far from your truth for too long. Alan Watts once said that our suffering comes from the gap between who we are and who we pretend to be. That's exactly where anxiety lives, in that gap. It's the friction between your authentic self and the persona you've built to survive. You know that version of yourself you present to the world? The one that smiles when it wants to scream, that says I'm fine when it's falling apart, that keeps performing strength when all it wants is rest. That mask might protect you, but it also suffocates you. And the suffocation shows up as anxiety. The body can't lie. When your words and your truth don't match, your nervous system revolts. It starts to shake the walls until you finally listen. We live in a society that rewards pretending. We celebrate composure, professionalism, and keeping it together. But what's the cost of holding it all in? Your body becomes the stage where the unspoken plays out. Anxiety becomes the scream you never let out. The tears you didn't cry. The truth you never said. You can suppress emotions for years, but they never disappear, they just change form. They come back as muscle tension, panic attacks, exhaustion, or numbness. The mind may forget, but the body keeps the score. Robert Sapolsky reminds us that our stress response has intelligence. It's not random. It's a messenger, a protective signal. When you feel anxious, your body is alerting you to something deeper, something unresolved. Maybe it's a job that's draining your soul, a relationship that no longer feels safe, a lifestyle that's burning you out. Anxiety is the internal alarm saying, "This isn't working." But instead of listening, most of us try to silence the alarm. We pop a pill, distract ourselves, or drown it in productivity. We treat the symptom and ignore the message. But the alarm doesn't stop, it just gets louder. What if you tried something radical? What if instead of running from anxiety, you sat with it? No judgment, no agenda, just presence. What if, the next time your heart starts racing or your chest tightens, you didn't ask, "How do I make this go away?" but instead asked, "What are you trying to tell me?" That question changes everything. It turns anxiety from a monster into a messenger. It transforms fear into information. You might discover that beneath your anxiety is grief, grief for the version of you that's been silenced. Or anger, for all the times you betrayed your boundaries. Or longing, for a life that feels more honest, more aligned, more yours. Anxiety isn't random, it's communication. It's your soul's way of saying, "I'm tired of pretending." And once you start listening, something shifts. The emotion doesn't disappear overnight, but it starts to soften. Because it's finally being heard. Let's be honest, listening to yourself is terrifying. It means facing truths you've been avoiding. It means admitting that maybe you've built a life around other people's expectations. That maybe the job, the marriage, the city, the routine, it all looks right but feels wrong. And when that realization hits, anxiety spikes. Of course it does. It's the body's natural response to change, to honesty, to awakening. But that pain isn't punishment, it's growing pains. It's your system recalibrating to truth. Carl Jung called this process individuation, the journey of becoming who you truly are beneath all the conditioning. It's messy, uncomfortable, and sometimes lonely. Because to become whole, you have to meet every part of yourself, the proud, the broken, the scared, the hidden. Anxiety often shows up right before those encounters, like a gatekeeper asking, "Are you ready to see what's real?" And if you are, it will guide you there. Because beneath every anxious thought is a buried truth waiting for light. The key is to stop labeling your emotions as good or bad. Anxiety isn't bad. It's uncomfortable, sure, but not bad. It's your inner compass redirecting you. Every wave of panic, every restless night, every racing heartbeat, it's your body trying to pull you back to center. The more you resist it, the more it tightens its grip. But the moment you observe it, breathe through it, and stop trying to control it, it begins to lose power. Observation is liberation. Because what you can see clearly, you can understand. And what you understand no longer controls you. So maybe the real path isn't to eliminate anxiety but to evolve through it. To let it teach you what authenticity feels like. To let it burn away everything false. That's how you reclaim your power, not by silencing the inner noise but by decoding it. Every emotion carries intelligence. Fear says, "Pay attention." Sadness says, "You've lost something important." Anger says, "Your boundaries are being crossed." And anxiety? It says, "You've been living disconnected from yourself." You don't need to fix that message, you need to listen to it. Because when you do, anxiety stops being a cage and starts being a compass. It points you back to what matters. It brings you home. And maybe, just maybe, it's not here to destroy you at all. Maybe it's here to wake you up, to remind you that you're still alive, still feeling, still capable of change. Anxiety is not a sign of weakness. It's a sign that you still care. That something in you refuses to settle for half a life. And that's not brokenness, that's aliveness trying to break through. At some point, you realize that thinking about anxiety isn't enough. You've read the books, listened to the podcasts, repeated the affirmations, and yet, it keeps coming back. That's because you can't think your way out of what thinking created. The mind built the maze, but it's the body that holds the exit. Healing doesn't begin in the head, it begins in the return. The return to breath, to presence, to the physical experience of being alive. Because while your mind is trying to predict the future, your body is begging you to come back home. Alan Watts said, "The secret of life is to be completely engaged with what you are doing in the here and now." He wasn't preaching philosophy, he was pointing to a forgotten practice, being present. But presence isn't an idea, it's a discipline. It's not about floating in peace while the world burns. It's about grounding yourself right in the middle of the fire. It's learning to feel the ground beneath your feet when your thoughts want to run away. It's noticing the air moving in and out of your lungs when your chest feels tight. It's remembering that even in chaos, your body still breathes for you. The body never abandons you, but we spend most of our lives abandoning it. Robert Sapolsky's research gives us the biological key to this return. He shows that our nervous system isn't an enemy to be conquered, it's an ally waiting to be retrained. When you slow your breath, you activate the vagus nerve, a direct line between your body and your brain that signals safety. Each slow exhale tells your ancient biology, the danger is over. This isn't spiritual poetry, it's physiology. Conscious breathing lowers cortisol, balances your heart rate, and restores the rhythm your body has been craving. Movement does the same. Walk, stretch, lift, dance, it doesn't matter. Movement tells the body, you survived. Stillness alone doesn't heal, embodied presence does. But there's more to this than biology. Coming back to your body isn't just about calming nerves, it's about reclaiming power. For years, anxiety made you feel like life was happening to you. Reconnecting with your body reminds you that life is happening through you. The heartbeat you didn't have to earn, the breath that happens on its own, these are proof that you are part of something much larger and wiser than your thoughts. That's the quiet truth anxiety hides. You were never meant to control everything. You were meant to participate in it, to move with it. Presence, then, becomes an act of rebellion. Because everything in modern culture pulls you away from it. Your phone, your schedule, your habits, they all demand attention somewhere else. Being present takes courage. It means resisting the pull of distraction and facing what's real, even when it's uncomfortable. But that's where freedom begins. When you stop needing every moment to feel good and start allowing it to simply be, anxiety begins to dissolve on its own. It's not that life stops being uncertain, it's that you stop demanding certainty before you live it. You learn to meet life one breath at a time. You start practicing radical attention, feeling instead of fleeing. When anxiety rises, you breathe into it. When fear whispers, you listen but don't obey. You begin to realize that emotions aren't permanent, they're waves passing through. And if you don't resist them, they lose their power to drown you. That's not avoidance, that's awareness. That's the shift from victim to witness. From fighting your mind to partnering with it. And slowly, something remarkable happens. You stop searching for peace, and peace starts finding you. Not the Hollywood kind of peace, no candles, no perfection, but the quiet knowing that you can handle what comes. You begin to trust yourself again. You stop interpreting every heartbeat as danger and start recognizing it as aliveness. You move from survival to presence. And that's when you realize that anxiety was never here to destroy you, it was here to wake you up. Both Watts and Sapolsky point to the same truth from different worlds. Surrender is not giving up, it's tuning in. The philosopher calls it acceptance, the scientist calls it regulation, but both mean this: when you stop fighting life, life stops fighting you. That's the paradox. The safety you've been chasing only appears when you stop chasing it. Real security isn't the absence of chaos, it's the confidence that you can breathe through it. So what does that look like in daily life? It looks like pausing before reacting. It looks like taking a slow breath when your mind starts spinning stories. It looks like walking outside, feeling the air, remembering that the world still exists beyond your worries. It's the small moments of presence that retrain your entire nervous system. Healing isn't about never feeling anxious again, it's about no longer being afraid of the feeling. You start to see anxiety not as an attack, but as an invitation. Every time it appears, it's asking you, are you here, or are you lost again in the illusion of control? That's the real transformation. You learn to meet anxiety with awareness instead of panic, with curiosity instead of shame. You begin to understand its rhythm, its purpose, its timing. You stop trying to erase it because you've learned to listen to it. And by listening, you disarm it. Anxiety stops being a cage and becomes a teacher, one that guides you back to balance every time you drift. Maybe that's what healing truly is, not the end of fear, but the end of resistance to fear. It's realizing that peace isn't something to reach, it's something to return to. Beneath all the noise, you've always had what you were looking for, the breath, the heartbeat, the presence. That's home. That's where life happens. And if you can stay there, even for a few seconds longer each day, anxiety loses its grip. Because you finally understand what it was trying to teach you all along. Stop running, stop controlling, stop chasing. Just breathe. You're already safe. You're already whole. You're already home. Thank you for staying with me until the end of this journey. I know your time is valuable. If this message spoke to you, if it gave you even one moment of clarity or peace, I'd be grateful if you'd let me know. A simple like, a comment with your thoughts, or subscribing to the channel helps this community grow, and it helps more people who might need these words to find them. Share your reflections below, I do read them. I'll see you in the next chapter. Until then, take care of your peace.